What's going on, Jeromes? The Vikings over in London and a supersized Q&A session. Let's get it on. R3 is the first question. Is the issue with the pass defensive scheme, or do you think he adjusted the scheme because of DBs we currently have? Will the scheme change if we had more press man type corners? Well, the Vikings do have press man corners. You look, well, maybe not Peterson anymore, but you look at Dantzler, you look at Andrew Booth Jr., even though he hasn't been out there. You look at Caleb Evans. Stylistically, they are long, lengthy press man corners. Now, Evans played a lot of zone in college, but I think that he does have the traits to be that press man guy. And I just don't get it. It just feels like we are wasting our corners, and the fact that they're not getting home with 4, I don't know what it is. It's certainly not a lack of talent. Maybe it is a lack of experience in the new scheme. Who knows? But yeah, there's too much talent there for the pass rush and coverage to be this inept. Drew Larson. I think Reagor is a super explosive player who needed to change the scenery. Do you think he will be given more opportunities as he learns the playbook? And do you see him possibly staying here long term? More opportunities, yes. You've seen that he's been in a couple package plays as well as a couple of design plays specifically for him. I think that you will see him more and more as the weeks go by. Possibly staying long term. I mean, maybe he does have, well, he's got a 5th-year option, as well as he's got, this year and next year on his contract. Same thing as Justin freaking Jefferson. But long-term, too early to say, but the Vikings will have 2 years to see what he is going to be made out of. John Anderson TV. I'm heading for Minnesota from Sweden for the first time for the Jets game. Do you have any suggestions for a good game day experience? Game day specifically? Well, since we're always in the studio, I can't speak to game day specifics, but downtown near the stadium is always a good time. Nicolay Avenue, lots of bars, lots of restaurants are open on game day. But just outside the stadium, just that experience, the skull line, all that stuff. And when you're in the stadium and they strike up the skull chant and then they sound off the Gallahorn, it will give you chills. Like, it is. There's something about being in crowds when there's such an energy and such a. It really is spine tingling, man. So have a lot of fun. Zach, after the past 2 weeks with Tua, should Vikings fans have a greater appreciation for Kirk's ability to always stay available on game day? How do you feel Teddy looked when Tua went out? That was really unfortunate with Tua, but also that could happen to any quarterback. So Kirk has been durable throughout his career, so knocking on all the wood there. But, I mean, sometimes it isn't so much durability as wrong place, wrong time. Yeah, even though Tua – well, it's difficult with Tua because Tua has had an injury history going back to Alabama. But I think that those 2 plays specifically, I don't think that had anything to do with Tua's overall health. I mean, that was just put any quarterback back there, especially the Thursday night one. That's how do you feel? How do I feel Teddy looked? I thought that Teddy looked good. I think that he looked fine given the circumstances, coming in cold, limited to no practice all week, except for the miscommunication with the tight end. That was just unfortunate, man. Especially since I bet Miami +4. I was feeling that one too, man. Yeah. Jackson Barrick. Would you say that the pre-snap motion as part of KOC's scheme has faded away? I haven't seen as much recently as there was before. I would say yes. It seems like you saw a lot of it against Green Bay, and that was the last time that the offense looked really, really good. But hopefully, it's something that he will go back to, because that was and is a hallmark of Sean McVay's scheme, and one of the reasons why Cooper Kupp is able to get open so effectively. David Hugan. I'm excited to see where a wide receiver core can become if they figure out all the receivers are good and stop trying to fixate solely on Jefferson. Spread the ball out, make them respect and have to focus on all of them. The rest of the league will be in big trouble. Eventually, Jefferson will figure it out. But let's be honest, he's still very young, which I think is fair. And I think you saw that to a degree in the Lions game. Thielen stepped up, had a big-time drive, had the touchdown. Also, KJ, of course, at the end. But Jalen Reagor, one of the tight ends getting involved, one of the running backs out of the backfield. I think that the Vikings... I think the Vikings both can scheme Jefferson open, use him better as a decoy, and make sure that other guys are getting really clean looks. I think all of that can be done. A Reptar. Do the Vikings still make a splash free agent signing, and do they make a big trade at the deadline? If so, who's getting signed or being traded away? Also, are we less likely to see Taysom Hill gadget if Jameis is out in order? No, I actually think that's more likely. So Jameis is probably going to be out. I think that you will see some Taysom Hill subbing in for Andy Dalton. In terms of splash signing, I mean, Malcolm Brown to stop the run, or Ndamukong Suh, of course, to get some semblance of a pass rush and stopping the run later on in the season. Yes, and it's possible. Trade deadline. Deadline's always tricky because nothing really happens in the National Football League necessarily. Connor Keck. If Jefferson is doing very well by midseason and Odell's still available, would you sign him for cheap? Maybe. Except wide receiver depth isn't really the issue with the Vikings right now. There's other issues, but that ain't one of them. But, I mean, I understand the baggage that OBJ brings to the team, but he's super talented. Still is, man. Supercore 98. Do you think Irv having thumb surgery fairly recently played a part in the drops he's had? Partly. He has had some drop issues before, except they all just seem like concentration drops as opposed to something mechanically wrong with the digits. So who knows? Connor Leonard, will the Tua situation impact the Miami Vikings game in a couple weeks, or do you think he'll be back playing by then? I don't know. And that would set up perfectly for a hey Teddy revenge game week 6 because Tua, let's be honest, Tua shouldn't have been playing on Thursday. And if he misses a month, that's obviously going to impact the Vikings-Dolphins game. So, I mean, it wouldn't shock me at all if Tua has to sit for the rest of the season because that was super, super scary. And I know that they're downplaying it. I know that Tua's downplaying it. But, I mean, if he goes out there again, has a third concussion, because let's be 100% honest here. He was concussed on Sunday. I mean, anyone can see that. I don't care what their medical experts say. Get out of here. Let's see here. Connor May. I generally love this offensive line. It's low-key refreshing. Do you have concerns with Joseph kicking after missing 2 deep ones? Blah, blah, blah. Also, what is your tips for first cars and recommendations? So offensive line is refreshing. It does seem like the Vikings have 5 extremely solid offensive linemen there. I think O'Neal is the elder statesman, 27. So that is super promising. Joseph Miss, I mean, if they were in the 40s in terms of range, maybe, but there were 2 long ones even for him. Plus, that draft coming off of the open doors was actually something because it affected the Lions kicker too. Tips for first cars. So I'm assuming this is your first car and you're a youngin'. I'm not really a car guy. Like I'm more of a hey, if it runs. And it's reliable and it'll get you to point A to point B and it's paid for. That's always my go-to with cars. But for like a first car, like a teenager, so I can only attack this thing. Well, when I was young, I worked and I saved up. So me and my grandpa had a deal. So I paid for 3/4 of the car. I think that it was a $4,500 car, so I paid 75% of that, whatever it is. It was a 96 Chevy Corsica, I want to say. Yeah, it was a good first car, man. But yeah, that's why I recommend too, because it just seems like kids that are just given everything, they don't appreciate things. And that's not just kids. That's all human beings, right? If you're just given something, you don't appreciate it as much as if you worked your ass off for it. So I would recommend, if this is buying your first car, going out, whether working jobs, side hustle, whatever, and having some skin in the game, because you're going to take care of that thing a lot better than you are if you're just given one. Pedro Branya. A non-football question. You already appeared with Brazilian shirts in your video, coming from a Brazilian fan. What is your relationship with Brazil, if you have any? So I love the wax and the butts and the barbecue. So I roll jiu-jitsu, so that's the main connection. Plus, I just love. I just love Brazil. So I know a few Brazilians, and I just love their attitude towards life, where it's not the overly hyped and saturated like Costa Rican pura vida thing, but just Brazilians. It's hard to get a Brazilian mad, like legitimately mad, where I feel like they have a very healthy outlook on life, where don't want to say it's like no worries, whatever, but I'm generalizing here, and of course this is all anecdotal, but I just feel like Brazilians don't get like triggered on like social media, or if their mocha grande frappe latte is like 2 degrees off, or I said steamed milk This is scalded milk. I just feel like they don't get annoyed by like that. And that's something to aspire to, man. Just be. I love Brazil. I should make a trip to Brazil. It'd be a good time. Got to bone up on my Portuguese. R free. Could KOC be pulling a rope-a-dope with Justin Jefferson, letting teams think they have cracked the code? No. I mean, every game's important. You're not gonna do that. You're not just gonna tank the production of your best player just to be like, set the stage. Nah. It's kind of fun to play with, but nah. Mr. Raining Fire. After the Eagles game, do you think the Sinful Saints will actually be more willing to play Taysom Hill? Vikings can't seem to figure out running quarterbacks. It's a possibility. Yeah, it's a possibility, especially with Andy Dalton in there. Ain't what he used to be. Yeah. Trump 45. Do you see the Vikings releasing Dalvin Cook after the season, trying to lock up Madison? Also not featuring Madison, more of a three-headed attack with Madison, Kincaid, and Ty Chandler. Maybe not straight cutting Dalvin. Potentially a trade, although who's going to trade for a 28-year-old running back with a big contract? I don't see them re-signing Madison, even though I do really like Madison, unless it's like a one-year deal. I don't know. I just think that some team is going to overpay him in free agency. But I do have a lot of faith in Kincaid as well as Ty Chandler. Misial Rivera. What defense changes do you think will improve our defense? Just simple things like blitz more. Play more press man. And see, that's one of the things that the 3-4 defense is supposed to be known for, is that you're blitzing, your zone blitzing, you're just really getting after it out there. Well, I shouldn't say just 3-4. I should say odd man front, so 3 down defensive linemen. But you see them rushing 4. Sometimes they're rushing 3. So they're dropping 7 and 8. And if you're not getting any pressure, I mean, even the worst quarterbacks in the league will pick you apart. Chase Essex. Since we're playing in England, thoughts on beans on toast? I know that's like the national breakfast, but I can't do it, man. I can't do it. Where I like baked beans, but I don't see it as a breakfast food. Obviously cultural differences. It's more of a summertime grilling out food. Like, get yourself a nice brat and a cold one and some coleslaw and some baked beans. Ooh, baby, you got things going on. Traveler. Why do you think Ed Dontel's defense has been allowed to stay the same? No blitz, soft coverage. I think they've been allowed to stay the same because you can kind of see the method to the madness, where the whole bend but don't break, give them latitude between the 20s, buckle down in the red zone. They've held teams without a touchdown in the fourth quarters, as well as they've done well in second half. So maybe, but it's just still hard to watch. Bridge boys, like, if you're gonna go down swinging. Don't go down looking. What's your opinion about the new offense so far? It's interesting because there's been 6 good quarters, so basically all 4 for the Packers game, the second and fourth for the Lions game, and that's it. All right, so 6 good quarters, 6 bad quarters, but overall it is promising. I think Kirk Cousins looks more comfortable than he ever has. Yes, including the Philly game. So I think things are looking up, and I do think that Kevin O'Connell is going to be one of these offensive wunderkinds and just really getting things done. Dylan Sunderland. Obviously, you never take a team lightly, but do you think the Vikings should manage injuries to Cook, Za'Darius, and maybe some Those 2 specifically, yes, but everyone else, probably not. Because Dalvin, sometimes you got to save Dalvin from himself. Like, he's too tough for his own good sometimes. Za'Darius, I mean, they have to be hopeful because of the fact that Za'Darius even made the trip, as opposed to just staying home and healing up. But I would keep both of them on a snap count if they both play. Well, Dalvin's going to play, but if Za'Darius plays. T-Money, if Ed Dontel plays more weak shell coverage on Sunday, can we call him Ed Donashell? Yes. Rob E., which rookies do you think will be starting for the Vikes when the playoffs begin? Ed Ingram, Ryan Wright. Those are the givens. I don't think Scene, and that's not so much on Scene. I think that might be it. Like, I think that Evans and Booth will be solid depth. I think that Asamoah will be a special team stud, but I think he'll still be behind Kendricks and Hicks. So, yeah, I think that's it. Gobble92. What was the first ever Vikings merch you owned, got yourself? Yeah, so going back to that job, I used to stock groceries back in the day. And my first purchase, I remember, was in... So I got a Randy Moss jersey for Christmas, 98. See, I was 12. Yeah. And then I started working when I was 14. And one of the first things I did is I saved up and I got this really nice stitched number Chris Carter jersey. It's in storage somewhere. I should really get it out because I don't know, it just felt good, man. Just felt good. I mean, Chris Carter was one of my favorite guys, back in the day. Growing up as a kid, 94, 95 Vikings, him and Warren Moon, back-to-back 122 catch seasons. Woo. That's right, man. Quentin Berg. Will there be any undefeated teams left after week 4? So basically asking, are the Eagles going to get beat? I think the Eagles win. Yeah, so I think the Eagles will start at 4-0. Brandon King. Last time we faced Dalton, he ripped us up. What's going to make us be able to shut him down this time? So this is the misnomer, because everyone remembers the 2020 Halloween game. Andy Dalton and the Cowboys came in and won. But everyone forgets the Week 18 game against the Bears, where Andy Dalton was sacked 7 times and picked twice. So, yeah. Connor May. How likely is it we actually switch back to a 4-3, or Dontel actually has a better scheme? I think you could see more 4-down linemen. Well, because 4-3-3-4 is a misnomer because you're very rarely in base defense anymore. It comes down to what type of nickel are you going to play. A 4-2-5 traditional nickel, or a 3-3-5, or a 3-2-6 modified whatever. So I think that you may see more 4 defensive lineman fronts. That would include guys like Danielle Hunter, hand in the dirt, Zadarius Smith and DJ Wyman standing up still. Ross Blacklock as a 3-tech getting in there, blowing up a B gap. So I think that you could see more adjustments like that as opposed to just a schematic overhaul. Robbie, when the season do you expect to see the Vikings team play its best? Let's see here. Let's look at Week 10. Shock in the world at Buffalo. Stephon Diggs, Xavier Rhodes, and Leslie Frazier revenge game. Yeah, I know. I can see this team really start hitting their stride later on in the season. Week 15, 16, they got 2 straight home games against the Colts and Giants, both very winnable games. So I could see them like peaking, and then maybe they'll have the division sewed up before Week 17 at Green Bay, which would be kind of nice. 3rd and 18. Ooh. Sorry, watching Tulane and Houston right now, so it's not going great for me. Let's see here. Megatron, who do you think is going to be the Viking starting quarterback next year? Nick, Kirk, or rookie quarterback? It's Kirk. It's going to be Kirk with his 1-year extension, no trade clause. Eric Francis, what is the worst record the Vikings can have going into the bye week? Well, I mean, mathematically, it could be 2-4. I think if they head in 3-3, I think that would be a huge disappointment. I think 4-2 minimum. 5-1 obviously is the pie in the sky, but I mean, 2 tough games, 3 tough games, because division games are never a gimme. I mean, the Bears and the Vikings always play a little bit close. Traveler, you know what days you'll be in Vegas during the bye for the Jeromes Connect? I will be in Vegas Monday, October 17th through Thursday, October 20th. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And I know it's inopportune. A weekend would be better, except our Aria plans for that weekend. I mean, never have kids. Actually, I lied. Kids are the best thing in life, and yeah, they're fantastic. They definitely take up a lot of your time. Daniel J. Hampshire. Based off this current NFL season, what are the top 3 players that won't be on the Vikings next year, and what are our top 3 draft needs? Skull. Let's say Irv, Patrick Peterson, and probably still Bradbury. I don't see them re-signing him. Top 3 needs. Center. Edge rusher potentially, and corner. Yeah, it's a passer. Get the passer league. Bow to bow. Would you be interested in resigning Bradbury if he keeps his level play up? Yes, but I think that he can continue to play well. But if he plays as well the rest of the way that he's played the first 3 games, I think that he could potentially get a contract that could be out of the Vikings range. Yeah, as crazy as that sounds. Josh Imsep, how much trouble are the Miami Dolphins in because of the Tua situation? Well, I mean, they need to be looked into. Like, I understand, like, the coaching staff and the medical staff says we did this and this and this and this and this, and maybe they did follow the letter of the law, like everything to a T. But then you gotta change the laws, man, because Tua obviously was not right. No one bought the he's got a back and ankle injury when he got his bell rung on Sunday. Please, Richard Winter. What did we do to deserve a cursed kicking game? I just think that U.S. Bank Stadium and before that the Metrodome was built on like sacred ground, like cursed. Zar goes 44. Should we trade Dalvin, who hasn't had a full healthy season, not re-sign Irv Smith Jr. and finally retire 84 and call Zimmer for basic defensive tips? No, but that'd be funny. Kevin DeCow, what other ways can the Vikings get JJ the ball when he's triple covered all game? Maybe simple things, just like lining him up in the backfield and having him run routes from out of the backfield, motion, put him in a stack, put him in a bunch. There's ways where, I mean, just simple motion. I mean, just getting him the ball on bubble screens and jet sweeps, just things like that. Things where 18 can be a factor no matter how many guys they put on him. Tristan D. If the Vikings somehow don't make the Super Bowl, I would like to see a Bucks-Bills Super Bowl. Imagine one final FU from Brady to the Bills by beating them in the Super Bowl before he retires. That would actually be funny. That would be pretty good. Skull Gaming, what inspired you to start doing the channel? Well, this actually started as an audio-only podcast, and it was week 14 of the 2013 season, the Ravens-Vikings Blizzard game, and mainly I just wanted to complain about Leslie Frazier, allowing Jumpin' Joe Flacco to march 80 yards for a touchdown to Marlon Moore in the back of the end zone with no timeouts. Also, that was the most insane game where it was a dud for 3 quarters, and then they scored. Both teams scored a bazillion points in the fourth quarter. I mean, this game had everything. It was baby. And then just sort of switched the video. No real reason. King Karate Chop 39. What's your favorite color? Well, I'm supposed to say purple, but also I really like the green of money. Chris Larson, what Vikings will eat eels in UK? None of them, probably. Daniel Brueggemann, why haven't we played Lewis Cine? Is it time to worry about it? I think it's more about Harrison being good, and then Metellus being good, and then Cambezy playing good. I could see them playing more 3 safety sets once Lewis Cine gets back to full fitness. I still don't think he looks 100%, but we'll see. And then lastly, Kyle Gabrulish. Okay, I've been watching your videos for 2.5 years now. I still don't get the Jerome reference. We are the Jerome Army, but where does it originate? So I was going to do a FAQ video, but then a lot of people says like, nah, yeah, let the inside jokes be inside jokes and inside references. So this actually starts with poker. So I play a lot of poker recreationally, and Phil Ivey is one of the best poker players in the world. Now, his origin story was he grew up in New Jersey, and he started playing in Atlantic City underage. And his fake ID, this is all the stories around him, were his fake ID. His name was Jerome. All right, so. They called him No Home Jerome because he would just play all the time. It was kind of funny, man. But after he became of age and became Phil Ivey, but there was a poker radio show back in the day, and they would call him Philip Jerome Ivey. Right? So I was like, oh, we'll just run with that. So here, as a term of endearment, we just started calling players, hey, Kirk Jerome Cousins, Adam Jerome Ezekiel Thielen, and the Ezekiel blah 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 blah. That addition came in because there was a quarterback named McLeod Bethel Thompson, and like one of his middle names is like Balthazar. So we just started adding middle names because it was funny to me. All right, so Adam Jerome Ezekiel Thielen. It just goes like that. is what it is. But that's it. That is Q&A expanded size for Saturday, heading into Vikings versus Saints. Thanks for coming along. Thanks for subscribing, tossing stuff in the Venmo. You know what to do. Skol, production value.